WFN Extra Time Podcast. With us this week is Kurt Hunt. How you doing, Kurt?
I'm doing great, thanks. My Twitter is KSCFC as usual.
All right. Also with us this week is our faithful founder and engineer, Drefooty. How you doing, Dre?
Doing great, Jay. Doing really well. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at Drefooty. And you can also follow WFN, what's going on here, at WFootyNet. And that's with an IE in there.
Alrighty, and I, of course, am the infamous Hooligan Broome. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can follow me at Hooligan Broome. All right, gentlemen, let's get right into it. FA Cup this week. Swansea and Bradford.
Yeah.
Swansea has their first trophy in 100 years, is it?
Yeah, League Cup.
Yeah. Oh, excuse me. I apologize.
What did Sherard name it? The Alec Baldwin Cup, because it's the Capital One Cup.
Exactly. But Swansea got a trophy. I don't know about y'all, but I have enjoyed Swansea's football this year. I probably, as an Arsenal supporter, should not be saying that, but it's just the truth. They have played a very attractive style of football, and they get results from it. They play as a team with heart, and much as I hate to say it, I'm glad to see them get some silverware.
Yeah.
What do you think, Drake?
I would agree with you, Hooligan. And the story for me goes beyond the actual game, the cup final itself. You know, with Bradford City and Swansea, two very unlikely candidates for a cup final, sort of a fairy tale for both. But particularly Bradford City, you know, here's a team that in the second tier that has that defeated three Premiership teams on the way to the final: Wigan, Arsenal, and Aston Villa. And you know, the team makeup, they're full of loanee signings and players that cost a fraction of what a Premiership side would pay for one player.
Right.
And for them to make the progress that they have, I know that a lot of people kind of devalue the League Cup, but it's a great competition because of stories like this.
Right.
And so, you know, to see them get to the final, you know, against all odds, against the Premiership side, was a great story by itself. And Swansea, here's a team without a major trophy for over 100 years. And I got to give it to Blaudrap because, you know, what he's done with this team since they came up, you know, Brendan Rodgers brought the team up to the Premiership, but he actually has improved the club since then to where they are, you know, moving up the league table, but now they find themselves with a major trophy for the first time. So that's been really a wonderful story to witness and watch. And that's, again, another reason why I love to watch leagues that are open like this, where you have teams in different levels that can move up in the league, but also have these cup competitions where they can punch above their weight, so to speak, and give us some excitement. As for the game, you know, it was a one-sided affair for the most part. Swansea looked like they were going to overrun Bradford. You know, I mean, the entire first half seemed to be played in the Bradford penalty box, but despite that, you know, Bradford were brave. They held out, you know, being there on the back foot for so long. But that early goal that Swansea put in, Nathan Dyer, I believe, put it in after a break, sort of opened the floodgates a bit. And then it didn't help in the second half when their keeper was dismissed with a red card for bringing down the player there late. So it was always going to be a mountain for them to climb, and it was just, you know, I guess a bridge too far, so to speak, for them to get through. But again, I enjoyed it. I watched the entire game. A lot of records broken, the highest scoring or the biggest victory of any team in this cup in the history of the competition. And so a lot of things to take away from that. The only thing is, I wish that Bradford would have been able to get a consolation goal for their supporters, you know, who traveled there, something for them to take back in addition to making the final. But other than that, I still applaud both teams for their effort to get there and then to play on the field.
Absolutely. Curdy?
Well, I agree with that. Swansea, the way Swansea have been playing this season, have been playing a much more affluent style of play. You know, I mean, Bradford beating Wigan, Arsenal and Villa to get there. You know, I mean, they should be proud. They should be proud of our team. And against Arsenal and Villa, you know, I watched their matches, and the support that Bradford have had throughout the Capital One Cup, it's been absolutely fantastic. They're really getting behind that team, and they really did deserve to get to the final. And you know, I mean, you know, hats off to Swansea winning 5-0, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Dyer he got a couple of goals, and Michu, he was looking, you know, I mean, he was looking pretty much himself throughout the whole game, and maybe the occasion just got to Bradford a little bit. You know, I mean, they weren't really playing like they should be. They should be on the same pitch as Swansea. Swansea being in Wales, you know, I mean, it's basically the same as England over there. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not too sure, you know, I'm not too sure what Welsh football culture's like.
But is it really a different country? Is it really? Or did we just give them a different flag and say, yeah, because you guys like sheep more than the average man, we'll let you call yourself Wales. Because really, it's Wales because your sheep are wailing because you're abusing them.
And that's the difference.
And that's why it's Wales. But moving on, you guys, this weekend in the Premiership, I don't know. All of my compatriots were, of course, happy to see Arsenal beat Villa. But for me, I don't know. For having a bunch of second-string players, for the most part, Arsenal does all right.
Second string, you say?
Well, I mean, they are. They're not. I'm not saying they're bad players. I mean, don't hear that. I'm not taking anything away from them. But if you look at what's out there, you know, we got a bunch of guys that are our second choice, more or less. I'm not saying that they're not footballers. I'm not saying that they're not brilliant at times. But at the same time, they're the second choice guys.
I still say that I think the biggest frustration with support, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, the biggest frustration for the majority of Arsenal supporters is the lack of trophies in the past few years. If you look at them where they are as a team, it's not a bad position to be in. Right. But I think the normal supporter feels like that they're underachieving, both off the field with player acquisitions and whatnot, and not being able to challenge for the title, say, this year. You know, I think that there's that desire to finally get those trophies coming back in, and because they're not right now, it feels like a failure. But you guys are in a Euro spot, you're 2 points off the pace for a Champions League place, and in perfect position to finish out the season strong. But I think the feeling is that it's not going to happen. It's, you know, you're weak or whatever. But I think you're still in a good position, in my opinion. Am I wrong?
Well, I mean, I can agree with all that, but I mean, for me, it's mainly about player acquisition. You can't sell an RVP and not replace him with, you know, you're not going to replace him with another RVP. That's just not going to happen. That's not reality. I don't care what any other supporter says. But you do have to replace him with a leader on the field.
Yeah.
And we haven't replaced any of these people that we've lost with leaders.
Hey, and that brings me to another question. Is that a Arsene Wenger problem, or is that a ownership issue, or both? I mean, we talked a little bit about this before with Louise in the past, but is this, I mean, think about it now. Wenger was the one who brought trophies to Arsenal after a little bit of a spell, right?
Well, I mean, I think you have to look back at George Graham.
Yeah.
The legacy that he left.
Yeah.
He left Wenger set up pretty damn well. Nobody can argue with that. I mean, look at the back line he left Wenger with.
Strongest in the league for a while.
Exactly. For me, the Arsenal issue just comes down to field leadership and being able to play together.
Yeah. How are they going to fix this?
I think you got a guy like Wilshire,
Yeah.
whose vision is so far above that of Podolski, Giroud. He can play with Walcott, but Walcott's getting better handling the ball. I've actually been impressed with how he's handling the ball this year.
What's Walcott's best position? Is he better out? I mean, he wants to be in the middle, but does he have the physique for that?
I think he can. I think he can play in the middle if you're playing 4 up top.
Okay.
If you're not playing 4 up top, then I think he needs to be out, because right now with what Arsenal has, you need someone with a little bit of height like Giroud who can be a target. But anyway, before I go off on a real long rant, to me, the win against Aston Villa was like a grown man going and knocking on his next door neighbor's door, the 12-year-old neighbor answering the door, and a grown man beating him up. I mean, that's what it's like to me. I'm glad for the 3 points, but I mean, Villa, if you look at them, it's a team full of kids.
What has happened to Villa over the years? They had such promise a few years ago. Now they're completely horrendous.
Yeah, but I mean,
they probably need a couple of seasons in the championship to build back up.
Yeah, but I mean, they're a team full of kids, and you're supposed to beat them. They're not supposed to be a winning side right now. So, but anyway, I'll leave that alone. Why don't you tell us about Sunderland?
Well, at the weekend, I was a bit baffled by the defenders that were playing, so to speak. I mean, we were playing Jack Colback right back, and then we were playing Craig Gardner on left back. And Craig Gardner, he isn't really a natural defender. Neither is really Jack Colback, and with Matthew Kilgallen and Kieran Mangani on the bench, I'm just not too sure why Martin O'Neill went with Colback and Gardner on right back and left back. But we played a 4-4-2 formation, which is a bit different to what Martin O'Neill usually plays, and Fletcher and Geordie were playing up front, and it's sad we had to lose, really, but it just seems, Lee Cattermole, he's always suspended. Titus Bramble's just standing there thinking about his next shag, and Simon Mingley, who's always got his hands out trying to deny the opposition. And in January signing Alfred Ndiaye, he was just, he's looking strong in midfield, and Stefan Sessegnon finally scored after I think it was 11 games without a goal, which is a bit strange because last season he racked up about 12 goals throughout the entire season, which was quite good for an attacking midfielder. And this season he's only got about three goals, and I'm not too sure what's going on. John O'Shea, our captain, it seems as though he's trying to lead the team to something bigger than what we're doing, but we're just not really going anywhere. And Sebastian Larsson, he seemed to have dropped a bit lately, and Adam Johnson, I'm really impressed with what he's managing to pull off, but the rest of the squad are just looking really, really poor. And I seen on Sky Sports News that Simon Mingley's agent says that he could be looking elsewhere in the summer. Simon, he's denied these allegations, but if his agent told Sky Sports News that it's happening, then there might be some kind of truth to it.
Oh man, what's that gonna do? How do you feel about that? Do you actually believe that, Kurt?
Mingley's passed off the allegations as false, but I'm not sure what his agent was doing saying those things if there was no truth in it. We've got Kieran Westwood on the subs bench who's Ireland's number one. And he's a really good goalkeeper. He's been, Kieran Westwood's been unhappy with being on the bench lately, but if it does come to having to sell Mignolet, then it's nice to know that we've got Kieran Westwood who can put on the gloves and go between the sticks.
That's
if
true.
That's a contract ploy or something. I mean, since it's coming from his agent.
Yeah.
So I guess time will tell.
All right, let's hear about United, Dre.
Yeah, I know everybody's waiting to hear this with bated breath. For United, I mean, they've surprised me. I did not expect them to have the season that they're having, and they had another good weekend against QPR, which they should have to do, just like Arsenal had.
Yeah.
As well. I mean, you don't lose these teams and call yourself a champion. But a good steady performance, keeping the distance away from City, I think is key for them, not to lose their nerve or lose their concentration. They have such a lead now that if they lose it, they have nobody to blame but themselves. I mean, to get this kind of thing. But I like the fact that Giggs is on the scoreboard again. And I do hope, though, thinking about Manchester United going forward, I do hope that he ties it up at the end of the season, not because he's a has-been player or isn't valuable for the club. I think that you need to give the likes of Cleverley and Anderson more time in there, even without that experience, so that they can mature a little bit more. Giggs and Scholes coming back is great. I mean, they've been great servants to the club, but I think that can retard the growth of some of the players coming in behind them. And sure, it could cost you points at some point or another, but you gotta, who am I to tell Fergie how to run his team or anything? But I'd like to see a little bit more of these other guys, particularly next season when it comes up, because Giggs is talking about another extension, and I just rather see him go ahead and go into coaching and call it a day. Not that he couldn't be valuable going into another season, because he's proven that he's keeping himself fit and he still has a footballing brain and can be useful. I just think he's more useful as a coach now to help those young kids come through. And for the long run, I think that's maybe the way I'd like to see it done. But again, I'd like to applaud his performance not only in this game but this year, and I think that United are in great position to get one or more trophies this year, which is
I think from a coaching perspective, Dre, because I mean, even though he's never been one of mine, Giggsy is about my favorite footballer especially Giggsy is about my favorite footballer because he's just steady.
Yeah.
But he may be one of those guys that is not a coach in the pure sense that you would think of as a coach. And I personally have some older guys that I use in this capacity. Mm-hmm. They can't tell you what to do, but they can get on the field with you
and lead
and show you what to do.
Yeah.
And that may be the capacity that Ferguson is using him in right now.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I mean, I don't know what his coaching prowess will be. I know he has his badges already, and I don't see him as a manager by any stretch of the imagination, but I do see him as somebody with his experience and his demeanor. I think he could be and the respect that he would command, I think would do a lot for his coaching career.
Right.
But, I mean, Solskjaer is a great example of that. That's somebody that I never thought would be a great manager or a good manager, but he seems to be heading in that direction of being at least adequate.
Yeah.
And, which is the opposite of someone like Mark Hughes, for instance, who had all the talent in the world as a player, but is pretty terrible as a manager.
Right. Well, I mean, it's just like with the Arsenal. I think if we had held on to Sol Campbell and used him on the field, actually playing coaching capacity, I think we'd have a stronger back line today.
Yeah, I would agree.
And I think I think that's the role Giggs is in right now.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean, having said all of that, I think that other notable games from the weekend,
Yes.
and I'd like to get a rebuttal from Kurt on this, but Newcastle won again, and they're climbing back up the table. And I'm really surprised that the new players have had such a positive effect despite poor management. And it reminds me of the way Chelsea and Man City are able to progress without proper leadership. And I gotta respect that. But I mean, Kurt, what do you think is going to happen with that? With Sunderland and Newcastle, who's going to finish in a better position by the end of the season, do you think?
Well, the Scum are now 1 point ahead of us, which is disgusting considering the clear breathing space that we had with them. You know, we were 7 points just a couple of months ago. We were 7 points ahead of them, and you know, I mean, it's our good form against their. Our bad form against their good form, and you know, with Derby Day coming up in a couple of months, we're going to Sports Direct Arena, or the Wonga Arena, whatever you want to call it. And I'm not looking forward to it all. I mean, if there's anyone that hates the Geordies, it's me. I mean, I can't stand the horrible bastards. And,
you don't say.
You know, and I mean, I really want to finish above them. In fact, you know what? I would quite happily finish 17th this season if it mean we could beat the Scum twice. You know, I mean, I would quite happily finish 17th if that was the case. I mean,
I can understand that.
You know, yeah. I mean,
for the region, I mean, that's almost like a championship in itself.
Yeah,
absolutely.
In the Northeast. So,
I mean,
yeah, but I am shocked though because I thought the players brought in with their playing style coming, you know, being French, should I say?
Yeah.
I would have thought they would have unsettled them more than helped them, but they're looking more solid than they're looking more like they did last season. Although I still don't rate them. I think that between their manager and on balance, in comparison, the talent they have, even with these new French players, I don't think it's that good. And so I'm just surprised that they're able to get the results. And so I have to eat my words a little bit because I thought they'd be down in the bottom three by now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy with whatever we can get over them. I mean, if you go to my Twitter page, you can have a look at a picture I posted earlier. 2012, Seaman Mingley was named the North East Player of the Year. And, you know, that's something with the North East talent, you know, I mean, I'm really happy that it was given to us instead of a Scum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
absolutely.
true. Very true. As far as games this weekend, of course, Arsenal have Spurs on Sunday.
Yeah. That's the game.
That game makes me nervous, to be honest. It just makes me nervous. I won't even begin to go into why it makes me nervous, but it makes me nervous. Hopefully, it makes me nervous because we beat Villa this past weekend, and we're going to show up with the attitude of, I don't think we're going to show up with the right attitude.
And see, Spurs is another team that surprised me much on the same plane as Newcastle. And although I rate AVB better than, you know, Pardue, but
yeah,
I wouldn't have thought they'd still be in the Euro places right now. And so this is going to be a critical one because Arsenal, you know, they're in that Euro spot right now for Euro League.
Yeah.
But with Chelsea kind of flailing and Everton kind of dropping off the pace, they have a chance to get in that top four, but they'll need a victory like this one. You know, to move in that direction. So that's going to be one to watch to see. Not only will they win, but see how they play. I want to see how they come up to the challenge. They're going away, you know, to White Hart Lane, and so it'll be interesting to see the result here. I'll be watching that one.
Yeah, it's a must-win game for us. I mean, for me personally, our season ends if we lose.
That bad, huh?
For me, yeah.
Yeah.
No, maybe not that bad. If we lose and have a bad game, if we play well and lose, I can accept that. But if we don't play well and we lose, season's done.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with you because this is a game they should be up for.
Right.
I mean, and they should at least show something against this squad, even though it's away. I think they have enough to make this a game, but we'll see.
Yeah. Curdy, what do you got going on this weekend?
Well, we've got Fulham at home, which I'm not too excited about, if I'm completely honest, because I think, I try to keep a positive mind, but I think we'll lose. We beat Fulham at Craven Cottage last time round, 3-1, but if you also affecting our league position with Southampton have got bottom place QPR at home, so I think Southampton are going to win that, and then that means Southampton will go above us, and we'll go down to 16th, and that's something that we can't let happen because we're only, I think it's 4 or 5 points above the relegation zone, and
it's unbelievably close.
It's not looking.
The good thing about this, for your point of view, Aston Villa and QPR are definitely going to be in 2 of those spots. But I think you got enough about you to stay out of the relegation zone. I think that what's going to be a little bit more of a negative outcome or view is trying to catch Newcastle.
Yeah.
At this point, I don't know.
But we can stay up this season, but it's going to be the same old story next season. We can start off fairly mediocre and it'll just be like that the entire season, and we'll end up finishing 15th, 14th with just absolutely nothing to play for anymore. And it's just really, really frustrating.
Yeah.
This is true. And Dre, who does your lot have?
We got Norwich. Definitely a winnable game. It's at home, at Old Trafford, and it's just one of those things. These are the kind of games that can come up and bite you in the ass a little bit if you're looking past them. And I think the other variable for United is that they're still in so many different competitions. You can lose sight of actually playing the game that's in front of you.
Right.
And Norwich is a team that can beat you if you have that attitude coming to the game. But I feel like that they're going to win. I'll have to wait and see what Louise predictions, if she agrees with me.
Right.
But I think they'll win. And other games I'll be looking at is the Everton one, because in relation to what Arsenal are trying to do, like we discussed before, unless they start to do something, I think Arsenal could be looking definitely at Europe and maybe Champions League.
I don't know. We'll see.
Depends on that result against Spurs and what Everton does, and so it's a good weekend to watch results. They mean so much going up and down.
You are absolutely correct there. Well, guys, last topic of special interest, I think, to the three of us and probably a lot of other people out there. Is money ruining football? I would submit to some degree the answer would be yes. It is. I think we've lost sight of the fun of it.
Yeah.
Because everyone buys the best people they can from around the world rather than building a squad. I think you see guys like, Arsene Wenger, which I think it's his folly a little bit, that really still believes in building a squad. David Moyes does it, and he's been successful with it this year. That guy has built a squad and is successful with them. But I think overall, if your club doesn't have any money, you're not going to go anywhere. And that's not necessarily the football I want to see. And it seems like, I hate to badmouth my own country, but the U.S. seems to have a hand in that. People are taking after the money model that we have here in the U.S., and it really dilutes the game to me. But I'll stop. And Curdy, what do you have to say about that?
Well, I'm 18-year-old, so I was pretty much raised in the modern era of football, so I don't really have a massive perspective of what football used to be like before all the corruption and the money. But I mean, our American owner, Ellis Short, things have went a bit downhill ever since he bought full stakes in the club. I mean, when we had Neil Quinn, I mean, he wasn't as rich as Ellis Short, but every transfer window, he'd hand out £50 million to our manager to go and invest in the club and buy players. And I mean, Ellis Short, he's just not really doing that anymore, and that's something I think's dragging our club a bit down, because Martin O'Neill just doesn't have the funds to afford the top quality players that we need. I mean, we bought Danny Graham for £5 million, but that's just about what we can hope to achieve. I mean,
Right.
Buying cheap players for just a few million. I mean, and we're not really going anywhere, and that's one of the reasons I think money is ruining football, because you need money to continue a football club, to help a football club grow.
Yeah, but it seems to be the real end all right now. You look at the Chavs and you look at Shitty, and they are the clubs they are due to money, not due to management, not due to player development, but purely because of money. They're teams made up of mercenaries. I mean, at least from my perspective.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know, it just kind of waters the game down a little bit to me. So what's your take, Dre?
Yeah, this is a big, big subject for me personally, and it comes from a very probably unique perspective, because I am American, for one thing. I was born and raised in the United States, and I've seen the game, and I'm old enough to have seen. I was following the English game before the Premiership. So, the late 80s is when I started to get into the game. Now, here's the thing. I've seen what America has done in sports in general, but in the MLS with the game, to answer for the financial issue. And it involves a salary cap, imposed parity where they try to make all the teams the same, and where the league controls the actions of the teams. And so that presents a very stable financial model, but it kills competition. And that's, to all those people out there that just think I hate MLS for being American, that's not the reason. The reason is I just don't find the competition compelling.
Right.
I want to follow it, but I can't. Now, on the other hand, again, when I started to follow Manchester United, this was the late 80s. And although this was after Ferguson came on board, is when I first started to follow them. At the time that I started to look at them, they had not won the league since the late 60s. When I started to follow them, although they were a popular team and whatnot, it was at a time before all the teams were more on a level footing, because they were all club and community based.
Right.
Even then, you saw that change when the Division I broke away and created what was then called the Premiership, which, they broke away from the Football League and became their own entity, much like MLS is. Now, the difference is they allow for promotion and relegation to continue between their league and this other league called the Football League. And so that's when you started to see the gulf and difference in clubs. And it just so happens that United won the first championship that year. And they've been going on a tear ever since. And there are different factors because of that. But I've just seen a very negative effect, money-wise, worldwide, since that time, where money has become the most important component in building a team instead of developing the youth. There's no more patience. There's always been a problem with corruption and and managers being able to hold on to jobs and things like that. But it's at a scale now that's unbelievable. I mean, look at Chelsea, the merry-go-round of managers that have come and gone with all that money that they have.
Yeah.
And so you have, and that's why I think I have a little bit more respect for Wenger than a lot of even Arsenal fans, because of what I've seen them do with the club over a period of time. Same thing with Ferguson. They've been able to establish things he created a youth program out of nothing. When he first took over at United, they didn't even have a youth program.
Right.
He created that out of nothing. He built the reserves. He built the staff and the infrastructure for that club. He's the reason why they are what they are today, not because of money. Now, they have a lot of money, or they had a lot of money before these American owners came through. But and now we're getting to the area where match fixing scandals are coming into the fold on a great scale. And, and as a United fan, I'll just say this. I can't stand most Manchester United fans. And the reason I say that is the pompous attitude, and I think it comes from me being a fan for so long, and then realizing that some people follow United only because they have won so many titles.
Right.
And a lot of that might be because of age. A lot of people that support the game are a lot younger than I am. So they jump on board and they just follow whatever. But, in America, and I have to say this from America's standpoint, because the whole thing about supporting a top-level team in America is that you have to pick one. Because unless you happen to live in a city where there's an MLS team, your team, if you have a local team in the NASL, USL, whatever, they're not going to be in the MLSL at all. So if you're going to support one, you got to choose one.
Right.
And so what do you choose? You choose the most popular. That same thing happens when they look at England. They got to choose a team, so they look and see who's the most popular. Manchester United, so they choose them. And there's this diehard Manchester United fan, so to speak. And to hear them talk and to disrespect other clubs and things like that just really gets under my skin a little bit. And I think it all boils down to the money that's in the game. And I don't know what can be done about it. I know that they're going to try to institute this, the scale where they try to do the financial fair play thing. But I mean, there's so many loopholes for that. I think it'll end up hurting the clubs without money more than helping them.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that to some degree.
Yeah, so I just think that there's a danger of the stress on money being at a level where it's going to be harmful for the future of the game, because I don't know how it is in England, Kurt, but grassroots in the United States, almost non-existent. I mean, they have youth programs here, but they are much like the franchises that are in the NASL and MLS. They're designed just to make money. They're not designed to develop talent.
Well, so there are some, like where I am, Dre, at Eagles.
Soccer in the Streets is an exception, yeah.
Well, Eagles too.
Yeah.
Eagles, you pay the parents pay a very small fee compared to these other big clubs around Atlanta, and we actually train them, identify them, and move them on if they can play. We're not like some of these other local Atlanta clubs that shall remain nameless, that they have talent and then they hold them and they don't allow them to go anywhere else and get development beyond what that club is prepared to provide them.
Well, what they've done, though, Hooligan, is that the pool of available good talent, whether it's from those clubs or from any other club, is so small right now.
Yeah.
And they look, who is MLS targeting? Are they targeting these, the players from Eagles and Soccer in the Street, those types of programs? They're not really.
No.
They're not looking that deep. They're looking at college kids. They're looking at these clubs on these elite youth club teams coming through to the colleges.
Well, and I'm sure Angry would disagree with this, but I don't think they're looking at anyone really. Unless you're already established somewhere,
Yeah.
they don't want to know who you are.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's that in a large degree, and it all has, again, it goes back to the financial model that they're so proud of, and at the cost of competition and compelling structure, which means closed leagues and making sure that all the teams are as even as possible. I think that's one of the things that's causing my love for the game to evaporate right now.
Well, my love for the game in the United States is, other outside of what I do, is definitely gone.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I mean, of course, the game is ingrained in me. I mean, I'm getting more into the grassroots. I'm getting more into clubs like Sunderland, AFC Karachi in Kenya, because of that being an example of a club that's truly ingrained in the community. I have a great deal of respect for Sunderland because of what I've learned through Kurt and the traditions there, and of course my own team, Manchester United, the history that's there. But I just think all of that's in danger right now because of the way that money's controlling stuff, and it's that way in society too, I guess. And the generation that we have now, that's a Twitter, Facebook generation, that's microwave.
Kurt. But yeah, I think it really is destroying the game to some degree.
I mean, academy football over here, it's, it's a bit different. It's not based on whether, the kid's parents have got money or not. It's based on, complete talent. If you've got, if your parents are millionaires but you're a footballer, then, you're not going to get into the academy. But, if you don't come from a wealthy family but you're a good footballer, then, you can't get into some academies. I went to school with a guy who, he's in the Newcastle Academy right now, and I honestly feel that he could be, a really good footballer sometime in the future.
Right.
Yeah. And I respect that system more because, again, that opens up the pool of available players, and it creates a system where everybody has eyes on them. Unlike here, where you don't have eyes on everyone. If these players don't show up at a combine or a team's franchise tryout, most likely they're not going to get seen.
Right.
And there's just something wrong with that when you consider the amount of research. And I hear the arguments, there's baseball, basketball, and all this other stuff, but we're talking about a nation of almost 400 million people. You can't find, enough to fill out a professional football squad.
Oh, well, yeah. It's bollocks.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. Well, guys, I think that's about all the time we have for tonight. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll do it again next week.
All right. Thanks for